So, hi, I'm
Hi, it is.
Hi, Suzi. I'm so happy that you are here with us, taking the time, and I'm very excited for you to share your wisdom with me and the rest of the people who's going to listen. Today, we're going to be in dialogue about decision making. Maybe I'll introduce us first. I'm Iris Shaham, a family constellation facilitator and artist. I'm based in Durango, Colorado, and was born in Israel. Suzi, I met you, I think, in 2020 in a workshop about immigration. And it was very, very profound for me. It was, wow. I really stopped for a second. And in these 4 hours, I really gained so much about what is a good stance for us immigration to come to a new country. And I would love to hear this movement coming from constellation eyes around decision making, which is the topic I chose. So I'm going to introduce you as an esteemed family constellation facilitator. I know you worked very closely with Bert Hellinger, the founder of the method, and you're a writer. And I know you love to share your voice with us, so everybody gains. And you're based in New York, right?
I'm actually, in my heart, I'm based in New York. I actually live in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So anything I forgot to mention that you would like us to know about you?
No, I think that was beautiful, actually. I do see constellation and writing in a very similar way. And I actually think, I look back and I share that with Bert as well, that he loved to write. He really loved to write. And he would take notes during a workshop. And I think, one of the reasons we really clicked was around the feeling that words are so important, how we use them, how we squander them, that words themselves can be constellations. Right.
Yeah, I was reading Love's Hidden Symmetry, and every time I start to read it, I'm almost into a different realm. It's so strong. And at a point, I wondered, is it Hellinger talking or is it your translation talking? It's very interesting. Every time I read it, I need to read a paragraph and make a pause. I cannot just keep on reading. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not like a mystery that, by the end you're going to know who did it, right? It is really much more like poetry. And I feel, I write like that too, that there's a way that I really don't know what I'm going to say until I write it and then I read it and then I think, oh. And I think that Bert really had that experience as well. So the idea of like who's writing it probably was not that clear to him in a certain way. Like, is it coming through him or from him? And I know when I'm happiest, I am writing and I really feel that there are voices coming through me. And I personally feel that they are in my lineage. And perhaps there are even voices that had been silenced, the voices of women who had been silenced. And so I always write in very good company.
Mhm. I love it because that's my ideal way of living.
Mm.
Do it and then, oh. And that takes me to the topic I wanted to discuss with you today, which is decision making. It's very challenging for me. always was. I was born in a kibbutz, and most of the time the decision were already made for me. And the minute I stepped out, I was very challenged by this, although I took really big, odd decisions. Um, and I was thinking before we started talking that life has this movement. And for me, when I move, the decision almost like makes me stop and even stuck in that junction until it's last minute. And only then I can continue. Um, and I wonder about your perspective. I mean, there's so many questions. Who really makes the decision? What shaped this decision? Is it me? Is it really free will, or is it actually already made by the past? So, yeah.
I love the question. When you said you were going to talk about decision making, or that was our theme, I thought, wow, people are used to thinking about decision making in a pretty linear way, I think. And there are, all these how-to books, how to make decisions, how to make the best decisions, how to, all of that kind of thing. Where really, I love this idea that actually making decisions is can be in the flow, or it can be things where we stop and we make a choice, and our feeling is, if I make the wrong choice, perhaps something terrible will happen, right? I think we learn that very young in the kibbutz, but I think we also learn it at our mother's knee, at our father's knee as well, that the choices we make are really endanger us or save us, right? That's very, very early. So that makes it inorganic, and it makes it separate in a way from the flow of life, right? So I also have issues with decisions. I also procrastinate so that I have to make the decision. Um, and so I'm a little bit at ease with it at this point. I sort of feel like, okay, that's the way I do it. However, I do it. I do ultimately make the choice, because when I do, I feel a sense of, my favorite word, I feel a sense of capacity. And I feel the sense that I am sort of taking charge of this idea that making the wrong decision is going to somehow endanger me, right? If I have the compass internally, if I am at home in my body and at home in my spirit, and if I am willing to take responsibility for myself, not for everybody else, but for myself, then making the wrong decision is simple. And it's actually, in a way, no better or worse than making the right decision, because I will be present to it. And if I am present to it, I get to have this thing that I think over time I've really come to cherish. And I think it is a huge aspect of family constellation. We take responsibility. We learn to take responsibility. We take our place in order to have mobility. And mobility, the sense that I can be mobile because I have me. So even wrong decisions, actually, if I stand with them, can become right, can become simple, can become light. And that's really kind of a big movement, I think, out of childhood, where it felt again that if I made a wrong decision, not only would I perhaps be in trouble, but I would be disappointing people behind me. I would be threatening my own belonging with the people behind me, right? There's like a disconnect or a split between what I do here and how it's felt here. And I think over time, I've really gotten very, very comfortable, neither here nor there, but right here, right here. So I think decision making really is first, here's my little constellation formula. Of course, for each person, it's different, so it's not prescriptive. First, acknowledging what is, telling ourselves the truth, telling ourselves the truth, meaning I realize that I risk something in making a choice because anytime I make a choice, I lose something else. I have to be willing to do that. I can't keep all the doors open. So acknowledging what is, and then this, which is one of the first phrases I ever heard come out of Bert's mouth. And then secondly, taking responsibility for the choice I make. That means not blaming other people, right? And that means, in a way, staying with myself so that I can continue to move no matter what happens, right? Um, and I think lastly, really sort of saying to the people behind us, I so appreciate all the choices that you made because they got me here. And now I will make my own, right? As a gift to you, in a way. My gift to you is not to repeat, but to create, right? So acknowledging what is, taking responsibility, and then really feeling the force of gratitude.
Mm. Yeah, it brings me to so many, like, decision making processes, because sometimes the decision is forced on us and it's not easy to take responsibility on it in order to feel more free. And I think it's challenging me, and it might challenge many other people that, oh, how did I end up here? So I guess that's the part of taking responsibility.
Yes, because how did I end up here? Implicit in that statement, and it's not that I never feel it, right? But implicit in that statement is I am powerless somehow, right? There is a powerlessness in that. Like, how did I end up here? Who's to blame? Who's to blame? Right? And I don't suggest self-blame either, by the way. For me, it is, uh, really this idea of responsibility defined as ability to respond.
I need you to repeat that.
So responsibility, if we look at that word, it actually means ability to respond. So we take it as kind of like this heavy thing. I must fulfill my responsibility. And the way I see it, the ability to respond is a movement, right? How can I keep up with the movement? So decisions that feel forced because I don't have enough money to, for instance, right? Or I have to do this in order to feed my children, pay my rent, whatever it is. That's reality. So I don't mean to bullshit about reality. That's reality, right? But the part of me that kind of rises up there with reality, not against reality, is this is true. It doesn't mean that it will always be true, right? And I get to do this rather than I have to do this. Even I get to do this in order to feed my child, right? And that just loosens the kind of victimization of being forced to do something and the powerlessness that goes with that, right?
Yeah. I'm I'm thinking about this force that even, okay, you made the decision, but sometimes come like the opposite force of, why did I? Why did I? But you already made it. But sometimes there's this voice who's trying to push you back almost to the junction.
I feel like that's trying to pickpocket in a way, this phrase pickpocket, but I'm trying, pickpocket is a person who sneaks up and takes your wallet out of your pocket without you even knowing, right? So I feel like what you're describing is kind of pickpocketing your sense of agency, volition, and capacity. I made this decision. I made this decision. Somehow is not satisfying or is not what I thought it would be, right? So I'm going to acknowledge what is, take my responsibility for having made the decision, not displace it onto other people. Take my responsibility and then make another choice, right? And the way you described it was perfect because you said sort of, I make the decision and then something comes and tries to push me back. And I want to say, no, I make the decision. So I move here. And from here, I will move there. I will not move back again. I will keep going forward. Right. And I think that is so much of society, at least American society, is very, very interested in displacing responsibility onto other people. And it's funny, it's like I'm not judging that in a way, but I'm saying that it's a disservice to me. When I do that, I know it's a disservice to me because I'm putting myself in, again, that child's position. And why should I volunteer to be in a child's position? Right? I already did that.
So can you give me an example of this place, the decision,
Mm-hmm.
someone else?
Mm-hmm. I don't know why this comes to me. It is, but I guess I work with a lot of people who have some version of this, right? Where I married somebody, for instance, and I'm unhappy in my marriage. And almost rather than acknowledge that, which would cause me to have to rise up and make a decision, I actually get very, very connected with the idea of I was forced to do this. My parents made me marry him because 1,000 reasons, because he was this, or because he made money, or because it was time, or whatever it is, right? Or because I was pregnant, or because, right? So they forced me to do this, right? Definitely our parents press into us and want us to live out the dreams that they didn't, or not make the same mistakes that they did and all of that. That's definitely true. But when I become enthralled with the idea of they forced me to do this and I am so unhappy, when that becomes sort of the world that I travel in, I avoid acknowledging what is, which is I am unhappy and I must do something about my unhappiness. I avoid that. And I simply stay in the complaint against them and soon the complaint against my partner. They are not enough. They are too much. They are not right. They were right and now they're not, whatever it is, right? And so I stay in this confusion of blaming others and I avoid acknowledging what is, because acknowledging what is invites me to take responsibility for change.
It's very beautiful, and I'm going to repeat it for my own sake and hopefully for other people. So, acknowledging what is, which can be challenging sometimes. We need sometimes another
It's
person.
almost the hardest thing. It's
Yeah.
almost the hardest thing. Yeah, go ahead.
And then take responsibility, and then just keep on moving.
And what I would put in there kind of, because I think it's in my language, I don't mean to insult anybody, but when I think about gratitude, I don't think of it, right? I don't think of it as a Hallmark card, right?
Yeah.
I think of gratitude as a force, like actually a force. And it's a force that both, um, it indicates something. When I actually feel into my gratitude for my life, my gratitude to my parents, my gratitude to my boss, when I feel into that gratitude, I am actually, in a way, individuating from the other,
Mm.
right? And I am implicit in that gratitude, in that force of gratitude, is I will do something with this moment, with this body, with this life, with this day, with this day. So for me, gratitude really is powerful. And we can make gratitude journals and all of that stuff. That's a beautiful thing. But it's part of the root system, I think, of constellation work, of lineage work, of ancestral work. So acknowledging what is, taking our responsibility, which is taking our place, and then really grokking the force of gratitude.
It's very beautiful. When I'm listening to you, I have this journey between trying to understand you and then going here and listening to you, which your words are very relaxing. Then I'm like, okay, back to, you
I
know,
love that. I love
TikTok.
that.
Um, yeah. So I'm curious, what do you think? Who makes the decision? How much is it free will? How much is it, you know, ancestors or circumstances? Or because sometimes it feels so like so much responsibility taking a decision. And I tell myself many times, it is relax. You're very little. You're not so big and strong. You're not God. You're not taking the decisions. But still, I'm very curious about how much is it conscious and how much it is unconscious.
So if I answered that exactly, I'd be lying to you. I believe anybody who answers that question is comfortable in their certainty, but certainty is not truth, right? So I will start by saying I don't actually know. Um, and I will tell you that I have just a feeling, and then I learn kind of. Perhaps I learn what corroborates my feeling. I don't know. Perhaps we all do. That's what we do, right? But when I think about Bert Hellinger, and then I think about, some of these artists who I really admire, like Martha Graham or Virginia Woolf, or these writers and dancers. So I think about Bert Hellinger in that sphere. And then I think about the artists, right? And then I think about somebody like Robert Sapolsky, who I made you read, right? Sorry. So I think about the scientists, the artists, and then the kind of thought leaders, or some people would consider very spiritual. So I think these three are like kaleidoscopic, and they are all relevant to one another, even though each is a path, right? For me, they're all relevant to each other. And for me, they sort of live kind of all side by side. Sometimes they're fighting with one another, but usually they're pretty cozy with one another. So my sense is kind of drawing from all of them and then mixing it with the mixture that is me, is that we have free will within, um, a very narrow space. And I'm not even sure of that, actually,
Mm.
but I would say that I have some ease with that. And that in the kind of long haul, because I am born of every decision ever made by everyone who is relevant, and by the way, all the decisions that were not made by them too, right? I come equally from all of that, that all of that fuels me, feeds me, informs me, right? So my sense is that when Bert Hellinger talked about the personal conscience, he was talking about the place that most of us live all the time, but it's actually a very small space where I choose the apple over the donut. I choose to sit with the person who is upset rather than foist my opinion on them, right? I choose to find a way, and this is a personal thing, to not be so reactive. Like that feels like a choice, feels like something I learned, feels like something that I wanted to stop doing and then to a great extent did, but all kind of in the personal conscience. And then when he talked about the systemic conscience, and I love the description of it, for me, decisions really, like this is the wellspring of decisions, is the systemic conscience. That's what we follow, but actually do not feel. All those things that we feel compelled to do, or we do over and over despite not wanting to. Those places where I sometimes say we are a mystery to ourselves. That's because our unconscious is coming up and actually pulling those puppet strings, right? And we are thinking we're seeing blue, but really our whole system is seeing green. And so we go with the green, right? Um, so, for me, it's really both and, but I think, use your words. I am, and sometimes I say this in groups, like I am small in a way, but that's actually not a statement of self-deprecation, right? It actually is a statement of mobility in a sense, right? And I am far less powerful than I sometimes think. I actually cannot make that person hate me. I actually cannot save that person by my own definition of saving, by the way, right? But I am much more powerful than I think in the sense that, and you always hear me talk about this, I can plant seeds. And I know that those seeds, oddly, I know that those seeds will grow no matter what the ground is like. In dry ground, in fertile ground. And what I can do is actually plant and then attend to what comes up as best I can. Right?
Yeah.
So this kaleidoscope sort of, what I mentioned in the middle, which is creativity, for me personally, that's the most important thing.
What do you mean when you say creativity?
I mean that I try, and believe me, I'm not always successful. And you probably already can say she wasn't successful. There. I know it. I'm not always successful, but I always try to make the choice that is generative,
Mm.
right? And so again, and this is such a simple thing, but really for me, kind of a life-changing thing, both as a facilitator and as a human being. When somebody is in despair, I can make the decision to try to get them out of despair with my great brilliance,
Mhm.
my wonderful advice, my band-aids and tissues, right? And interrupt their journey with all of those interventions, interrupt their journey, or I can make the choice to sit beside them and just sit beside them. And for me, that is a creative act, and the first one is not.
It's very beautiful, Susie. I feel the relaxation of it, and I think the family constellation facilitators who are attending, I think it's a golden, I don't know, advice or like tip, or I love it. I also love your question, who do I want to become? And I think it can be applied when you make decisions. Um, yeah. I tried so many methods, even flip a coin,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or so many things. I ended up just imaging what, if I already took this route, what images are coming to me.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And right now that's what I'm doing. But I guess I'm still on the road, and,
And
hopefully.
I think that's I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, I'm with you.
I actually think that's a beautiful way to do it, and I think that it doesn't negate or diminish the other steps, right? So, for instance, like I know you just made a decision. It's funny, I don't know, in Hebrew, maybe it's take a decision, and in the United States, we really say make a decision.
Mm.
And I'm always interested in that little difference, right? One kind of implies that because it's very American, right? One implies that we're doing something from a whole repertoire of things. I'm taking this thread versus this thread, and the other is, I'm going to make this, right? I'm going to make this anyway. But so I know that you recently made a decision, and maybe you did exactly that. You envisioned if I went or if I didn't go, right? And you made a decision, it seemed to me in the very brief moment that I talked to you, on behalf of peace in a way. Like I could run and try to grab up everything and in a way not even get what I came for. Or I could make a decision that says, you know what, I'm going to care for my own sense of peace. And one day in the future, I will meet this person and that person. And I will meet them at a time that is right for me. And therefore, it will be right for them.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. I think it's also involve trust here. That,
Yes.
you know, so we can ease if we know there's something bigger that is holding us in a way. Yeah.
That's right. Because it's like, it's such a boring metaphor, but I think it's true. When you go to a banquet and you are starving, or you feel that you're starving, and I think many of us are not starving and we feel we're starving emotionally, physically, spiritually, however it is. So we go to that banquet and we're starving and we just cram everything in our face. And first of all, we don't taste any of it. Second of all, we don't discern, right? Am I eating stuff that's bad for me, or am I eating things that are nutritious? And thirdly, I'm sorry, but most of us throw most of it up later, right? So when we kind of make a choice not on behalf of peace, right, there is a way, or calm, or wit, or wholeness, or whatever word you want to use. There is a way that we kind of engage in like a bulimic lifestyle. This is going to be the answer. no, this is going to be the answer, right? Rather than decision making being a part of how we move rather than apart from it.
I like that. And as always, I need to travel from here down to my heart. Suzi, we're coming to an end, even though I have so much more to talk about, but I would love if you would share um, something personal about decision either you made and changed your life, or one that you didn't make and you're thinking about it, if there's such a thing at all.
There's so many things. You might have to sit with me till dawn, but
I would love that.
I'll just, we have to make some coffee. We'll just, and so I'll stay with something that continues to be moving for me. And people have, in some of my classes, have heard me talk about it. And I was shy for very many, many, many years to talk about anything personal. I actually thought, like, am I imposing on people? Right? I grew up in a household where people did not disclose. It was like a week or something. And I really, well, I was fed on that, and so I believed it to be true. So maybe this is where it begins, right? My decision to actually stray from that particular self-protection in order to join people differently, and I would say more. So a part of that was, and this did change my life, was deciding to, and it was a decision, decide to move out of the contract. And that seems like such a cold way to put it, but move out of the particular kind of love for my mother and my father, more overtly for my mother and covertly for my father, to move out of that particular kind of love that had to keep my brother a secret, where it would be disloyal or unloving or in some way abandoning them, to break the silence around my brother's birth and his life, and making the choice to actually have my own relationship with him is how I came to understand it, rather than to have particularly her relationship with him. I began to see, oh, there is a thread from my mother to my brother. I don't have to judge it. I don't have to understand it. I just see it. So there's also a thread from this little sister to her big brother that is separate from this thread. And once I began to kind of understand it that way, I began to be able to find my brother, literally meet him. He was in an institution. Before I was born, for people who don't know, before I was born, he was institutionalized because he had a developmental disorder that put him at about 18 months, at least that's what the record said. Who knows, actually? And he grew to be, middle-aged man. He died at like 52, which he lived a long life. So visiting him was really secondary to allowing him, like really thinking of him as a part of my constellation. That decision changed my life because what it did was, I don't know what it did for him, if anything, I don't know. But for me, it allowed me to be accompanied in this both personal and existential way that I can't quite describe to you. Talk about moving from the head to the heart. His presence allows me now to stand in my place in a different way. He will always be bigger than me. He will always be my older brother. And there's a sense that I have that that was part of taking my place. I could not take my place without my brother. So,
Yeah, beautiful. It does give me goosebumps. Yeah. Susie, we are coming to the end.
yeah,
I want to thank you so much for your precious time.
such a wonderful opportunity for me. It is. I'm very fond of you, as you know. I love your questions, and I love that you make me work.
uh, Susie, just for people who are listening, where can people find you? I know.
I'm inescapable. once you find me, I'm inescapable. Probably my website's the best, which is Suzi Tucker.com. And you can contact me through there, and I keep up pretty well with what I'm doing there. I'm doing a lot in the next months, so please visit.
Yeah, I definitely recommend. And I do want to summarize again for myself, acknowledging what is.
That's the hardest.
That's the hardest. And then taking responsibility.
Taking our place, taking responsibility, ability to respond.
And gratitude.
And the force of gratitude.
Beautiful. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Iris.
Thank you, Susie.